The penthouse smelled like money and fresh flowers. Caleb Merritt noticed both the moment the elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor. He was carrying a mop bucket in one hand and Lily's permission slip from school in the other, folded into quarters and tucked between his fingers because he hadn't found a pocket for it yet. Lily was not with him. Lily was downstairs in the building's service lobby, sitting on an overturned supply crate, eating a granola bar and drawing in her notebook because the neighbor who usually watched her after school had called in sick, and Caleb had not had the kind of morning where canceling was an option. The penthouse door was already open. Natalie Voss stood in the center of her living room in a gray blazer, phone to her ear, not looking at Caleb when he entered. She pointed at the floor near the kitchen with one finger, the way a person points at something they want moved without looking at it. Then she turned her back. Her assistant, Jordan, stepped forward with a printed sheet. Full clean. Kitchen, 3 bathrooms, main floor. She needs it done before the 2 o'clock showing. Jordan paused. She said the last crew left streaks on the windows. Caleb looked at the windows. Floor to ceiling. 42 stories of Chicago skyline behind glass, so clear it looked like the city was inside the room. "I'll take care of it," he said. Jordan handed him the sheet and walked away. From across the room, without turning around, Natalie Voss said to whoever was on her phone, "The building's maintenance team. Not a proper service, but it'll do." There was quiet laughter from a phone. Caleb set his bucket down. He looked at the windows. He looked at the floor. He looked at the ceiling, at the ventilation housing above the kitchen island, at the specific way the crown molding met the load-bearing column in the northeast corner. And something moved across his face that was not quite anger and not quite recognition and was not anything Jordan would have known to notice. Because Jordan did not know what Caleb knew. Nobody in that building did. Not yet. 6 months later, Natalie Voss stood outside Voss Tower, the building she had owned for 11 years, with a document in her hand and a lawyer beside her who had run out of things to say. The name on the deed was no longer hers. The man who now owned it was downstairs in the service lobby, helping a 6-year-old girl zip up her jacket. Caleb's apartment was on the 14th floor of the same building he maintained. This was not a coincidence. When he had taken the maintenance position 3 years ago, the building management had offered the unit as part of the compensation package. A modest 2-bedroom with west-facing windows that turned orange at 4 in the afternoon and made Lily stop whatever she was doing to look at them. She did this every single day without being told to. Caleb had never once pointed it out to her. He did not need to. The apartment held exactly what they needed and almost nothing else. Lily's drawings covered the refrigerator in 4 overlapping rows, each one dated in the bottom corner in her handwriting, which was careful and crooked in equal measure. The bookshelf beside the kitchen table held 2 kinds of books. Children's books on the bottom 2 shelves within her reach. On the top shelf, where she could not yet get to without the step stool, a row of architectural reference manuals, a structural engineering textbook with a broken spine, and a single framed photograph facing the wall. Caleb had never explained the photograph to anyone. Almost no one came over. That Tuesday morning started the way most of them did. Lily sat at the kitchen table in her school clothes, Biscuit the bear propped against her orange juice glass, studying the Tuesday page of her calendar notebook with the focus of someone who took scheduling seriously. "Today is a field trip day," she announced. "I know," Caleb said from the counter, where he was making her lunch. "Mrs. Alvarez said we're going to see a real building being built." He set the sandwich down. "What kind of building?" Lily thought about this. "A tall one," she said, with complete confidence. She looked up at him. "Do you know how buildings work?" Caleb was quiet for 1 second longer than the question required. "A little," he said. He finished making her lunch, zipped the bag closed, and tied her shoes before she left, pulling the laces with a particular tension, the way a person ties something they want to stay. He watched her walk to the elevator with the neighbor's daughter. Then he went downstairs to start his shift. His work orders for the day were standard. Filter replacement in units 7, 12, and 29. Hallway light repair on floors 8 and 11. Lobby floor strip and wax. In one addition, written in at 7:47 that morning by Jordan on behalf of Penthouse, a full interior clean, pre-showing. $500 flat rate. No overtime. Caleb had looked at that number for a moment. Not because it was offensive, because he remembered very clearly the last time someone had offered him a flat rate on something that was worth considerably more. He picked up his bucket and took the service elevator to the 42nd floor. Lily asked him that evening, while he read to her from a picture book about cities, who decided where the windows went in tall buildings. He closed the book on his thumb to hold the page. The architect, he said. What's an architect? Someone who designs the building before it gets built. They decide everything. Where the rooms go, how the light comes in, where the strong parts are. Lily considered this. Like a plan, she said. Like a plan, he agreed. She looked at Biscuit, who was sitting on her pillow with the serious expression that stuffed bears carry when they are listening. Did someone plan this building? She asked. Yes, Caleb said. Do you know who? He was quiet for a moment. Someone who doesn't work here anymore, he said. He finished the chapter, kissed her forehead, and turned off the light. Then he sat at the kitchen table in the dark for a while, the way he sometimes did when the apartment was quiet enough to think in. On the top shelf, behind the reference manuals, the photograph faced the wall. It had faced the wall since the day they moved in. Caleb had placed it that way himself. In it, though he had not looked at it in over a year, a younger version of himself stood in front of a construction site on a clear November day, hard hat in hand, beside a man named Gerald Voss, who was 71 years old and shaking Caleb's hand with both of his and saying something that the photograph could not record, but that Caleb had not forgotten. You built something that will outlast both of us. That's the only thing worth building. Gerald Voss had died 14 months later. His daughter Natalie had inherited everything. And Caleb, who had been contracted as lead architect on Voss Tower under the name of the firm he'd worked for at 26, a firm that had dissolved 2 years after completion, whose records had been absorbed into Voss Properties' legal archive and had not been reviewed since, had taken a maintenance position in the building he designed because his wife had died and his daughter was 3 years old, and the only thing that had felt real in the months after was the building itself. Its weight, its angles, the way it moved in wind, exactly as he had calculated it would. He had not told anyone. He had not needed anything from it. Until now, the issue with the 36th floor valve worsened in October, as Caleb had predicted. 2 units on 38 reported discolored water. Facilities dispatched a contractor who spent 4 hours and filed a report attributing the problem to aging pipe sediment. The contractor's fee was $3,800. The problem continued. On the first Tuesday of November, Ray Kowalski, senior building engineer, 58 years old, with the kind of face that had spent 4 decades being told things weren't as bad as they seemed, came to find Caleb in the lower maintenance room. He sat down on a supply crate and said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "The pipe report, the one you filed." 3 times. "Yes," Caleb said. "The contractor they sent couldn't find it." "I know." Ray looked at him with the expression of a man who has been watching something for a long time and has recently decided he is done pretending not to see it. "The original building spec," Ray said carefully. "The mechanical drawings. The ones from when this place was built." Caleb was still. "What about them?" he said. "There's a secondary junction schematic. Page 47 of the original hydraulic plan. It shows a bypass valve configuration that none of the current staff have ever seen, because the digital copy of the mechanical plan that's in our system is version 3. He paused. Version 3 was filed in 2019, after the building changed ownership. And version 1, Caleb said. Ray looked at him for a long time. "I found it," Ray said, "in a physical file in the archive basement, in a folder labeled obsolete documentation." He paused. "The bypass valve on page 47 of version 1 explains everything you've been reporting, and it is not on any current diagram in this building system." A long silence. "Someone removed it," Caleb said. "Not a question. Someone removed it." Ray agreed. He folded his hands. "I've been in buildings for 34 years. I know what an original mechanical drawing looks like." He looked at Caleb steadily. "And I know what an architect's notation looks like in the margin of one." The room was very quiet. Outside, the building moved slightly in the November wind, the almost imperceptible flex of a structure designed to absorb lateral load through a specific arrangement of its core columns, an arrangement Caleb had specified himself at age 26 on a drafting table in a 2-room office on the west side. The notation in the margin of page 47, Ray said, "The initials." He waited. Caleb said nothing. Ray nodded once, slowly the nod of a man who has confirmed something he suspected and has decided what to do with it. "I'll keep the file where it is," Ray said. "For now." He stood up. "But you should know." Marcus Webb reviewed the version 3 filing in 2019. He signed off on the archive transition. He would have seen both documents. He walked to the door. "That valve is going to fail, Caleb. Not in 4 months. In 4 weeks. Maybe 3. He left. Caleb sat alone in the lower maintenance room. Outside, somewhere above him, 42 floors of glass and steel and carefully distributed load stood exactly where he had placed it, patient, precise, and full of things that had been waiting a long time to be seen. That evening, Lily showed him a drawing she had made at the field trip. A tall building, crayon windows in uneven rows. A small figure standing at the top with their arms out. "Who's that?" he asked. "The person who made it," she said. "I thought they should be at the top." She looked up at him. "Is that how it works?" Caleb looked at the drawing for a moment. "It should be," he said. "The valve failed on a Thursday. Not catastrophically. Not in the way that makes headlines. It failed the way things fail when they have been ignored for long enough. Quietly, at first, then with increasing certainty. Water pressure dropped across floors 34 through 41 by 6:30 in the morning. By 7, 14 units had reported the issue. By 7:45, the building's facilities contractor had been called, had arrived, had spent 30 minutes running diagnostics on the digital system, and had said, as Caleb had known he would say, that the system was not showing the fault. Because the system was showing version 3 of the mechanical plan. And the fault was in a component that did not exist in version 3. Marcus Webb arrived at 8:15 and went directly to the building manager's office. Caleb was in the lower maintenance room when Jordan came to find him. Not on behalf of Natalie. On behalf of Natalie. Jordan stood in the doorway with the careful expression of someone delivering a message they did not fully understand and had been told to deliver exactly. "Ms. Voss would like to see you," Jordan said. "She says it's about the water pressure." Caleb set down his wrench. He wiped his hands. He thought of Lily upstairs getting ready for school. He thought of a drawing on the refrigerator. He thought of a photograph facing a wall. And he went upstairs. Natalie Voss's office was on the 40th floor, 2 floors below the penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows again. The city below in clean, rectangular sections. Marcus Webb was already there, standing to the left of her desk with his arms crossed and the particular expression of a man who has decided how a conversation will go before it begins. Jordan stood near the door. Ray Kowalski was not present. Natalie looked at Caleb when he walked in with the same sharp attention she had given the windows after he'd cleaned them. "Sit down," she said. He sat. "You filed 3 maintenance reports about the pressure valve," she said. "Yes." Each one was reviewed and closed by facilities. "Reviewed by Marcus Webb," Caleb said, "and closed without inspection." A brief silence. Marcus spoke. His voice was even and measured, the voice of a man who had been in rooms like this many times. "I reviewed the reports against the current mechanical documentation. The documentation showed no such valve configuration." "The current documentation is incomplete," Caleb said. "The current documentation is what the city filed," Marcus said. "The current documentation is version 3, Caleb said. Version 1 is in the physical archive in the basement, in a folder labeled obsolete. It has been there since 2019 when version 3 was filed with your signature on the transition approval." The room was very still. Marcus did not move. Natalie looked at him. 1 second. 2. And she looked back at Caleb. "Why would the version be changed?" Caleb held her gaze. Version 1 contains a bypass valve schematic on page 47 that is not in version 3. That valve is what's failing right now. It was removed from the official documentation in 2019. He paused. The same year, Voss Properties finalized a licensing agreement with Hartley Engineering Group, who submitted a patent application for a valve configuration nearly identical to the one on page 47 of the original plan. The silence was the kind that changes the air in a room. Natalie had gone very still. Marcus's expression had not changed, but his hands, resting on the back of Natalie's chair, pressed down slightly on the fabric and then released. Caleb recognized the gesture. He had seen it before, in the script transcripts, in the pattern of men who have calculated their remaining options. That's a significant allegation, Marcus said carefully. It's a document comparison, Caleb said. The original plan, the version 3 filing, and the Hartley patent application are all public record or archived here. Anyone with access can look at them in sequence. He turned back to Natalie. The valve can be fixed. I can do it today. 2 hours. The parts are in a maintenance supply room. I ordered them 6 weeks ago. Natalie looked at him steadily. Who are you? She said. Not an accusation. A genuine question. The kind of person asks when they realize they have been in a room with someone for longer than they understood. Caleb reached into his jacket pocket. He set a single card on her desk. It was old, the stock slightly yellowed, the font the formal serif of a decade ago. But the name on it was clear. Caleb Merritt, lead architect. Merritt and Associates Design Group. Below the name, in smaller text, Voss Tower, Chicago. Completed 2012. Natalie looked at the card. She looked at Caleb. She looked at the card again. My father commissioned this building, she said slowly. Yes, Caleb said. You designed it. Yes. And then, my wife died, Caleb said. Our daughter was 3 years old. I left the firm. The firm dissolved 2 years later. The records transferred to your legal archive. He was quiet for a moment. I took the maintenance position because I needed work I could do and still be home when Lily needed me. And because, he stopped. He looked at the window, at the city behind it, at the specific angle of morning light coming through glass he had specified at age 26 because he had calculated exactly how it would fall at this time of year. Because it's still my building, he said quietly. And someone was going to hurt it. Jordan, who had been standing by the door, had stopped pretending to look at her tablet. Marcus Webb had not spoken in 4 minutes. Natalie Voss sat very still at her desk. Then she picked up her phone and called her legal team. The investigation took 11 days. The original version 1 mechanical drawings confirmed what Caleb had described. The Hartley engineering patent, filed in March 2019, 2 months after the version 3 archive transition, contained a valve configuration that Caleb's original design team had developed and documented in 2011. Marcus Webb had been on the Hartley board since 2018, under a holding company name. He resigned from Voss Properties on day 3 of the investigation. He did not say a word on his way out. The valve on the 36th floor was fixed on the first morning, by Caleb, in 2 hours, exactly as he had said. The water pressure on floors 34 through 41 normalized by noon. 14 units filed no further complaints. On the 12th day, Natalie came to find Caleb in the lower maintenance room. She had not sent Jordan. She came herself. She sat down on the same supply crate Ray Kowalski had used and looked at the floor for a moment before she spoke. The patent filing, she said. If you pursued it, the original design documentation, the timeline, your claim on the Hartley licensing revenue would be substantial. I know, Caleb said. Are you going to? My attorney is reviewing it, Caleb said. Natalie nodded slowly. The building's archive. The original mechanical drawings. The full version 1 plan. She paused. They were filed under your firm's name, which means the underlying intellectual property, the design itself, was never formally transferred to Voss Properties. She looked up at him. My father should have addressed that in the original agreement. He didn't. He was generous, Caleb said quietly. He trusted that things would be handled correctly. He was right too, Natalie said. About the building, not about everything that came after. A silence. Then she placed a folder on the supply crate between them. My legal team prepared this, she said. It's a formal attribution correction. Your name goes back on the building's registered design documentation. Publicly. Permanently. Caleb looked at the folder, but did not open it. And Natalie said, I would like to offer you a position. Not maintenance. She paused. The building needs a director of structural integrity. Someone who knows the original design from the foundation up. Someone who can make sure what happened with Marcus doesn't happen again. Caleb was quiet for a long time. Outside, the building moved almost imperceptibly in the December wind. Patient. Certain. My daughter gets out of school at 3, he said. The position is flexible, Natalie said. He looked at her. I'll need to review the full facilities documentation. Everything filed since 2012. I'll have it pulled this afternoon. He nodded once. He reached forward and signed the attribution document on the signature line. The same signature that appeared on page 1 of the original Voss Tower architectural plan, filed in 2011, in the lower left corner where architects place their names when they want the building to remember who made it, even if no one else does. He collected Lily from school at 3 o'clock. She ran to him from the classroom door the way she always did, with complete commitment, the way a 6-year-old runs towards something she has never once doubted. He crouched down to her level. She had a drawing in her hand, slightly crumpled from being carried all day. "We drew buildings today," she said. "I drew ours." She held it up. It was their building. 42 floors in green crayon. Uneven windows. A small figure at the top. "Who's that?" he asked. The same question, because she had drawn it again. Lily looked at the figure. "That's you," she said. "I put you at the top this time." She took his hand, and they walked home. Behind them, Voss Tower rose against the December sky. Exactly as it had been built, exactly as it had been designed, carrying in its core columns and junction valves and precise northeast window angles the quiet, total signature of a man who had never asked for credit, only for the building to stand. And it did. It always had.